Hello and welcome to Spinster's Library. I'm Claudia, this is Bill, we're talking about Brexit again. I haven't actually planned this video beyond this.
Okay.
Today is Saturday the 16th of March.
10 AM because that'll be relevant somewhere.
Why? Do you think by the time we upload this Theresa May has resigned?
Changes by the hour.
Today I thought we would just go through some options of what even could happen in the future, because it's been feeling like there is no way out of the situation the country's in at the moment.
There are no options. So Jacob Rees-Mogg, we'll start with him as we often
Lovely.
do on Spinster's Library. A second referendum, the so-called losers' vote, has now been defeated in the House of Commons, so it is off the table.
Says Jacob Rees-Mogg.
So we'll start with that
premise
that if it's been voted down by the House of Commons, you can't have it. So no deal's definitely off.
No deal's off, because they voted against no deal.
Twice.
They voted against Theresa May's deal.
Twice.
And they voted against... against Malthouse.
Yeah.
And they voted for an extension. So the only thing that we're certain of right now is that there is going to be an extension.
Yes, but there's still the question, obviously, of an extension for what, and just saying that there is an extension is meaningless.
And also the extension isn't decided by the UK what extension and how long. That's decided by the EU 27.
So by Rees-Mogg logic, the choices you got left are revoke Article 50.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it? That's the... according to Jacob Rees-Mogg, that is the only way forwards.
Of course.
He is rejecting the people's vote, saying that Parliament voted against it.
Of course. As we all well know, Rees-Mogg logic is not the same as logic. So,
no.
Nothing has really been ruled out, and Theresa May can still pretty much do whatever she wants.
Yes, because if we've learned anything from parliamentary politics in the last few weeks, is they don't matter. She's just going to do whatever she wants, regardless of what Parliament votes. Because Parliament has now rejected her deal twice, and she's going to bring it to them a third time.
There is a rule that you can't bring the same motion twice, right?
From what I understand, yes.
Right. That's probably not going to be... I think the rumour is that rule's not going to be used for the meaningful vote 3, but it might stop meaningful vote 4.
And a lot of power now lies in the hand of John Bercow, the Speaker of the House, who is going to be criticised for what he does, whatever he does. It just seems like that's not a good way to run the country.
So I want to talk to... Minerva. Hello. Hello, Minerva. Hello, Minerva.
She would like a meaningful vote.
She would like meaningful treats. I think I want to talk to Leave voters. Don't
worry, they will be there.
You get some occasionally, right? So
yeah, they will be there.
How you doing?
Shall we put some questions directly to Leave voters who might be watching this and actually commenting?
The big question I want to put is, what do you want to happen next? See, I've got a theory, and I want to run it by you. Your best chance of getting your Brexit is to revoke Article 50. I can't remember why. No. The stage we're at, Theresa May's deal has been ruled out by a Remainer Parliament. Theresa May's deal is the hardest Brexit that's ever been discussed, even, that's ever been on offer.
Well, other than no deal.
Other than no deal, which has been voted down.
Yes. So at this point, no deal isn't really an option, but...
No, Theresa May's tried to keep it on the table as a bargaining tactic, but anyone who knows the actual law knows that it legally can't happen.
But if you're arguing with Leave voters, they will say, because that's what Jacob Rees-Mogg says, that no deal is still very much on the table, and that no deal isn't illegal, and that no deal isn't destructive. So I think that's the point where... you can't logic.
Yeah, I mean, you can argue. If you want to argue with me that no deal's going to work, go ahead. They're
not going to argue with you, they're going to argue with me.
Alright, if you want to argue with Claudia that no deal's going to work, go ahead.
I had this conversation with someone the last time we did a Brexit video.
Product placement.
And I specifically asked, what do you want to happen on the Northern Irish border? And they said, well, obviously there wouldn't be any checks on the border. And I said, so do you want a customs union? and do you want free movement of people? And they said no. And I said, so you want checks on the border? And they said no.
Yeah,
there is no way with the technology of 2019 to make this a reality.
So you voted Brexit. You voted for more money for the NHS. You voted for more money for farmers, more money for scientists, more money in your pocket, scrapping VAT on fuel bills and tampons. No EU beneficiaries left worse off. No short-term economic disruption.
Bendy bananas.
Brand new trade deals all over the world with no damage to trade to the EU or our cooperation with them on security and so forth. Guaranteed in a treaty that will sort out before 2020. That was definitely a thing. With no obligation to follow EU laws. They also said we'll cut immigration, we'll have a new immigration system in place by 2020. Are you getting that? Is that what you're getting? Because that's what you were promised. Your best chance of getting the Brexit that you were promised is to revoke Article 50. The reason being, if these things are possible, they are not possible in 13 days.
Yeah.
At the same time, you've got your friend and mine, Nigel Farage, shouting in the EU Parliament asking them not to allow an extension. You've got Aaron Banks and Andy Wigmore flying off to Italy to ask the government there
persuade people
not to allow the extension. Meanwhile, you've had some Tory MEPs, I believe, go off to Poland, and there's always Orban in Hungary, right? So there are leaders in the EU who may well want to block an extension,
yes.
And your side, your Leave side, is trying to make that happen. So extension's off. Theresa May's deal's off. What you want is to revoke Article 50 and then step back. You can come up with a plan and you can persuade people. That's your best bet of getting the Brexit you wanted.
The fun thing is that if you think back to 2 years ago, Theresa May didn't want to trigger Article 50 just yet. You know, the referendum was in June. And then she kind of tried to delay it, and the EU won't listen. We need Article 50 triggered, so you're out by the time we have European Parliament elections. Because they are coming up in May. So whichever extension the EU grants the UK is going to go beyond May. They're not going to give her a 2-month extension. I think the minimum they would be willing is 3 months. So
Unless
what happens to the European Parliament?
Unless it's a short technical extension to implement the deal that's
the
been
legal
agreed.
Issues, yeah. But there's not been a deal that's agreed.
That's got to go through Parliament first in meaningful vote 3, which we don't know when it's happening, but will probably be in the next week.
I believe they said it has to be before next Wednesday. Isn't that the date that Theresa May is forced to buy an amendment back in January? Although forced to again, it's a little bit wishy-washy because technically she can do what she wants.
And it's really funny people say the EU's undemocratic. This shambles would not happen in an EU-style parliament.
No, it would not.
At all.
But even the system that the UK has isn't working because you have cabinet ministers not voting for the government motion and things like that. You have people changing their minds at the last minute. You have infighting within the government. We're not even talking about Tory backbenchers and Tory frontbenchers. We're talking about people who are supposedly governing the country as a team not being able to agree on how to govern the country. That is ridiculous.
2 things happened this week that are peak Brexit government, right? Stephen Barclay, the Brexit secretary, stood up on Thursday in the debate and argued very strongly for the government's motion.
And then voted against it.
Before that, the day before...
Amber Rudd and stuff.
Voted against the government whip. But the government whip was silly on that day. The government whip whipped to vote against itself and then lost.
I think that is going to be Theresa May's legacy as a Prime Minister, is as someone who's unable to hold her government together. And to be fair, I don't think anyone else would be doing a better job. It's just the situation that we're in with Brexit doesn't allow for the two-party system to work in the way that the government is designed to.
No, it doesn't. I don't believe in strong government. I believe in compromise. And working together and
coalitions.
Talking things through. Yeah, coalitions are a good thing. That's effectively where we are, because Theresa May cannot govern in the way that first past the post and UK style governments expect to be able to govern.
But she can't govern with strong government, and she can't also compromise, because clearly that just goes over their heads of the entire government. The idea that you can sit together with other parties of opposing opinions and try and find a compromise, even though she said that several times, she's clearly not doing it.
If there's a lesson to be learned here, it's that adversarial politics doesn't work.
No.
First past the post builds into this, where you have two big parties fighting against each other, and you don't have to have an argument in favour of your own point of view, you have to have an argument against the other's point of view.
Yeah.
And that's why we've ended up with a parliament that can only vote against things. It can't actually say what it's in favour of, because that's what it's built to do. It's only built to go against something.
I'm trying to think of the last time that the whole parliament was in favour of something, and it's probably gay marriage, with the odds like opponent here or there on the Tory side of things, and of course Tim Farron.
I don't think there's any way forward apart from revoke.
Well, revoke and then what? Because if you believe Boris Johnson and stuff, revoke Article 50 would trigger an actual revolution.
It's not. They say quite often that taking away Brexit is going to trigger the far-right uprising.
They also say
Brexit is the far-right uprising.
But they also say that that triggering Brexit is enforcing the will of the people, which is a fun way of saying the will of the person who's saying the will of the people.
Yeah, provably false. Democracy didn't stop in 2016. I saw a wonderful graph recently. If you can find it, you can put it on the screen there. Polls of Remain versus Leave throughout 2016, right? And Remain is going up here, and Leave is going up here, blah, 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 blah. And then there's this line when the law breaking started, and all of a sudden, just before the vote, like that, and then straight back down like that. This is a tricky one for Leave voters, I think, to reconcile, and I understand that. You were told all of these wonderful things that you were going to get, and you believed them. There's nothing wrong with you for doing that. You were told by people who are ostensibly very reliable and very trustworthy that these were things you were going to get. You were told by politicians, you were told by the news that you were going to get all of these wonderful things, and you voted on that basis. You were also told that a lot of horrible things would happen if we stayed in the EU. You were told that we were going to have to adopt the euro, which was proven to be wrong. You were told that Turkey was going to join, which was wrong. Even if you're someone who still believes in leaving the EU, and you still think that Brexit is a good idea, you can't deny that people were told this.
People
and
were
you can't deny
lied to.
And you can't deny that people made their vote on this basis. The Leave campaigns saw they were behind, and they broke the law. This isn't even libel now, this is just proven. They broke the law, they spent a lot more money getting this message out.
But people are going to say, well, I'm not influenced by fake news on Facebook, but the truth is we all are, because if we weren't, why would politicians be putting millions of pounds into campaigning if it didn't make a difference? If all that mattered was our own free will and our own rational choices, then campaigning and political advertising wouldn't exist. We're all influenced by it.
And by arguing against that, you'd be saying two things. You'd be saying, first of all, that my opinion is set in stone from the point that I'm born and does not change, regardless of what evidence is presented to me. And you're also saying, as Claudia says, that all campaign spending is pointless.
Yes, that if campaign advertising didn't matter, there wouldn't be such strict restrictions placed on it.
I know a lot of Remainers, and I talk to them, and it doesn't excite me particularly. I want to talk to Leavers, not because I want.
They will come.
Not because I want to fight you. I think you voted for what you thought was best. I think you knew what you were voting for. I think politicians didn't know what you were voting for, but I think you knew what you were voting for. I think politicians are saying, let's not insult the people by pretending they didn't know what they were voting for.
Shall we leave it here?
I want to talk to Leave voters, and I would like you to talk to me in the comments as well. And we're going to start from the position that we disagree on stuff, but I don't think you're stupid. I don't think you're racist. And I want to talk to you. I want to say, what do you want to happen from here on in. The Brexit that you voted for, you personally, is that what's being offered so far? If it's not, how do you want to get it?
We're talking specifics here. We're talking customs union, we're talking freedom of movement, Irish border, all of that stuff, trade deals, contracts, tariffs.
Nothing abstract, if we can avoid it. Sovereignty, something like that, is a very charged word. But practically, what does that involve?
Yes, please do not say, I just want Brexit. Brexit means Brexit. Red, white and blue Brexit. All of these phrases are completely meaningless.
Leave means leave. We're past all of that. We are 13 days away from the supposed Brexit day. It's not going to happen, is it?
No. The question that I want to ask people is, what do you think will happen if the EU does not grant an extension? What other options do you think there are? Because we've tried to think this through and we've come to the conclusion that the only option there's left, if the extension is not granted, is to revoke Article 50. Now, do you think there is another viable option? If you say no deal, then I'm sorry, that's been voted against. If you say Theresa May's deal, that's also been voted against. So what other options are there, in your opinion?
I also like the no dealers, if you really do believe that, to tell me why you think no deal will be better than what we have now. And again, no abstracts, please use things.
Real things.
Yeah. Fight us in the comments. We'll be around for a bit to argue in there, politely, obviously.
That's the thing. I'm just going to say now, I will delete any comments that are racist, sexist, in any other ways directly offensive. You can argue your point, but you do it under the assumption that on the other side of the argument there are human beings.
I have not insulted you at all during this discussion, unless you're Jacob Rees-Mogg.
Yeah, fuck Jacob Rees-Mogg. Thank you for watching.
Bye!